Thanks, Sophie, and welcome to Look East. In the programme tonight, on board the UK's £200 million polar research ship as it docks in its home port. The Sir David Attenborough threw open its gangplanks at Harwich today. On board, the equipment and scientists to investigate everything from climate change to biodiversity.
It's a real game changer for Antarctic science, and the capability that this ship brings to science in the polar regions is absolutely immense.
Business leaders urge the government to deliver investment zones for the region, but will the new Chancellor back them? Where your money went for children in need. We've been chatting to parents at a mother and toddler group in Essex.
And if you're a Beatles fan, you're going to love this. I'll be taking you on a magical mystery tour around Sir Paul McCartney's Wings tour bus.
First tonight, a rare opportunity to get on board one of the most advanced research ships in the world. You might expect the Sir David Attenborough to be found exploring the Arctic or Antarctic, but today the £200 million ship was docked at its home port of Harwich in Essex, with scientists keen to show exactly what it can do. This from Ian Barmer.
5 days to go before the Sir David Attenborough leaves Harwich, bound for the Antarctic on only its second major voyage. Captain Will Watley is in command.
These controls are the two stern thrusters. Those are the two bow thrusters. The ship also has two rudders, which are there. They can be synchronised into one control or be controlled separately. This all can be combined into one joystick, which is here. So if we just need to move the ship in one direction like that, we can just move the joystick that way, and the ship will actually follow it and go that way.
It's one of the most technically advanced vessels in the world.
It's a real game changer for Antarctic science, and the capability that this ship brings to science in the polar regions is absolutely immense, and it's designed to be able to do so for the next 3 or 4 decades.
The ship is a floating laboratory, home to up to 60 scientists with 13 indoor labs and space for another 17 in shipping containers. But along with the cutting-edge polar science, the British Antarctic Survey is also developing a navigation system using artificial intelligence. It's a bit like an eco-sat-nav for ships.
So that yellow route is actually ploughing through a certain amount of ice, and that's costing quite a lot of fuel. Whereas the eco route avoids that thicker ice. It goes skirting around the edge a bit, but it saves about 9 tonnes of fuel. That's a significant reduction in CO2 equivalent emissions.
The Sir David Attenborough won't be back in Essex for months, so the crew were busy loading everything they need for a long voyage. Harwich is the UK home port for the RRS Sir David Attenborough. They chose it because it's near to the British Antarctic Survey headquarters in Cambridge, and it's easy to transfer samples and equipment. When it gets to the Antarctic, it can break through ice 1 metre thick to reach the UK's 4 polar research stations.
It's the Falklands up here on this side, and then over to South Georgia down here.
And all the time, scientists are studying the seabed. Each line here shows a journey that's already been mapped.
We know more about the surface of the moon than we know about our own seafloor. So we probably have about 10% of the seafloor that we have a depth sounding for. That means just we know how deep it is. But that doesn't mean we know exactly what's there, doesn't mean we know what it's made of, and it doesn't mean we know what lives there either.
As the COP27 climate conference draws to a close in Egypt, governments are trying to find ways to slow climate change. But the Sir David Attenborough is out there looking for the telltale signs in the ice, in the air and in the sea.
A key goal of many of the features of this ship are measuring those fundamental properties of the ocean that reflect changes in our climate. So what we're interested in is the saltiness, salinity of the water, the temperature of the water, the amount of oxygen in it, and most importantly, the amount of carbon dioxide in it.
They'll reach the South Atlantic by mid-December, and the Sir David Attenborough won't return to the UK until May next year. Ian Barmer, BBC Look East, Harwich.
Of course, it was the ship the public wanted to call Boaty McBoatface. You can find the full story online. Go to bbc.co.uk/Essex. Next to something we know you feel strongly about, getting an appointment with your GP. Nationally, the number of doctors per patient has fallen for all practices, and that's feeding through to a longer wait for us patients. In a moment, I'll be talking to someone heading a campaign across Suffolk and parts of Essex to change all that. But first, Amelia Reynolds has been looking at the challenges they're facing.
It's one of the first points of call when you or a family member are ill, your local doctor's surgery. But the system is overwhelmed. This local practice on the outskirts of Norwich told us it's oversubscribed by almost 5,000 patients because of the large number of new homes in the area. And of course, we're all living longer, so future predictions are bleak.
Our analysis suggests that there was a shortfall of around 4,200 full-time equivalent GPs across England in 2021-22. Under current policy, that shortfall would go up to around 8,800 GPs by 2030-31. So effectively from around 1 in 8 GP posts to around 1 in 4 GP posts.
The government promised 6,000 extra GPs by 2024, but ministers have admitted they're struggling to achieve that. And while they say a record-breaking number started training last year, critics point out it takes time to qualify, and the need is now. And there's another thing to worry about. Many GPs are retiring, so those leaving the profession may end up offsetting those that are joining. Frustrating for patients, but also for those professionals who want to help everyone that needs it, but sometimes simply can't. Amelia Reynolds, BBC Look East.
Dr. Ruth Bushaway is the medical lead with the GP Support Hub. Her job to support GPs from the minute they qualify until they retire. Tonight, she'll be doing just that at what they call a later career event in Colchester. And earlier this afternoon, I asked her what GPs are telling her.
It's challenging because there's a lot of demand. It's challenging because we've been through COVID. And the number of GPs is declining, unfortunately, rather than going up as we were hoping, and that was promised in the at the last election. So
things are getting worse. Are more GPs coming to you at the hub for help and advice than they were before?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's around different things. For some people, it's advice about how they can get some flexible working opportunities. It's about how they can access wellbeing support, maybe look at maybe a portfolio, slightly different career. And sometimes it's people moving into the area, which is always nice.
The government say they are trying to improve things. They're making 4,000 training places available for GPs each year to help create an extra 50 million appointments each year. Will that make any difference?
I hope so. I'm a trainer. I'm a GP trainer. I think it's absolutely vital that we promote health and care careers. I think it's a really good career. There's challenges about the estates. Where are we going to train these people? Who's going to do that training? And there's an additional time taken away from patients in order to do that.
So at the GP Support Hub, what can you do to persuade GPs to stay or perhaps even come back if they have dropped out for whatever reason?
Yes, it's a tricky one. Somebody said to me, why are you trying to persuade people against what they think is right for them? And I think it is really that, making sure that people are aware of the opportunities of what could suit them.
Is the real worry here the fact that you can't replace them as fast as the rate that they're dropping out?
I think that is what's happened. I think the 5,000 that we were promised in 2019, and there's more than 1,000 lower than where we were at that point nationally. And the more difficult it gets, the more you can understand why somebody would feel, actually, I'm tired, I've worked very hard through COVID, I'm working extra long hours, and I need to look after myself.
Dr. Bushaway, thanks ever so much for your time.
You're welcome, thank you.
And if you're a GP wanting advice, you can email the Hub, the address info@gphub.org. Other news now. Suffolk's Police and Crime Commissioner has apologised after the personal details of sexual abuse victims appeared online. Names and addresses of victims could be accessed briefly on Suffolk Police's website. The force is investigating the breach. Suffolk Rape Crisis warned the league could put women at risk. Campaign groups say they've flown over the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here camp, demanding the removal of West Suffolk MP Matt Hancock. A banner read, "COVID bereaved say get out of here." Matt Hancock was Health Secretary during much of the pandemic. And there's more news online, including how North Norfolk MP Duncan Baker helped reunite a Ukrainian family. Mr. Baker's hosting a Ukrainian woman and her son. They went with him when he took aid to the country, and she saw her husband for the first time in 7 months. Time to look ahead to this week's big political announcement, Jeremy Hunt's autumn statement on Thursday. We all know that the last mini-budget unravelled spectacularly for the previous Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng. But there is one policy that might yet survive: investment zones. The idea is that businesses moving to special areas would pay less tax, helping to promote growth. This from our political correspondent, Andrew Sinclair.
This is part of the Lowestoft Enterprise Zone. It was set up 10 years ago, offering tax breaks to firms prepared to relocate here, like this office furniture company.
As part of the Enterprise Zone, it was business rates free for 5 years, which meant we didn't have to find that money. We could use that money elsewhere in the business. We could plan for 5 years, knowing that we didn't have to pay business rates as well.
And if there hadn't been those benefits, you might not have come here?
No, we would have looked elsewhere.
Essex and Suffolk Water moved their call centre to Lowestoft because of the tax breaks on offer. In the 10 years that it's been going, the Enterprise Zone has created more than 2,000 jobs.
Growth, growth and growth.
The Liz Truss government was obsessed by growth, and one of its big ideas was to create more enterprise zones. But this time, they'd be called investment zones, with more tax breaks and relaxed planning laws. The idea to encourage businesses to invest and to drive growth. Local councils were asked where the new zone should go. Suffolk suggested Lowestoft again, where the Inner Harbour is being developed, along with 11 other sites. Norfolk has put forward 20 sites. But the new Chancellor has hinted that investment zones might be too expensive and may be scaled back or scrapped altogether.
It's really important that we have incentives to businesses to continue to invest. We know we're entering a recession. We know there will be cuts to public services, public expenditure. So it's all the more important that businesses are incentivised and given that extra boost.
As always, local business is hoping for more investment in roads and skills training. But this time, there's one other thing they're particularly desperate for.
They'd love to have the ability to have the stability to plan long term. That is currently missing. So whatever the Chancellor does, we are looking for long-term plans that give us stability, that give businesses confidence to make their own investments.
Back in Lowestoft, Martin's business is still expanding and he's taking on more staff. Many firms believe they can do more to drive growth, but they need the right help from the Chancellor. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East.
And tomorrow we'll be looking at what impact the autumn statement might have on the region's hospitals. Our health correspondent, Nikki Fox, has been to the Queen Elizabeth at King's Lynn. She's been given access to some of the operating theatres, which have had to close because of its crumbling concrete ceilings. Still to come tonight, we'll be live at the Community Awards ceremony, recognising people who've gone the extra mile. And Alex will be here with the weather.
Yes, and this photograph sums up today's weather pretty well. We've had blustery winds, we've had outbreaks of rain, and we've still got some unsettled weather on the forecast for the rest of the week. Not a complete washout with some sunshine on offer. Join me at the end of the programme for all the details.
Right, we're starting off our build-up to BBC Children in Need tonight. The big day is now just 3 days away. Last year you raised £51 million, and already some of that money is helping people in this region. Among the projects to benefit, the Little Pals parent and toddler group at Jaywick in Essex. Sean Peel has been talking to some of the mums at a time when the cost of living is on everybody's mind.
We're in a class as a vulnerable area, so obviously we offer the toddler group for the vulnerable families. So obviously a lot of our families don't drive, so it's on their doorstep. We're a charity-run nursery, so you know it's just as important for all our parents to access all the groups as best they can.
The cost of living is just going to be extortionate for everybody, but we are definitely going to be the area that feels it the most, I think. I've had to draw back quite a lot. But obviously trying not to take stuff away from them. I'd rather go without than them go without. Does that make sense?
For me, it's really important for these children, these families particularly, it's important that we have different groups, different days that parents, grandparents and families, carers can access. And it's Children in Need funding provides exactly that.
We love the crocodiles. You love that.
Yeah. I love that they can come and make the mess here, and all the resources they give. I couldn't necessarily be buying out each week at home to entertain her. And from last week she's just started crawling and everyone celebrates it with you. So it's fab that we all enjoy milestones together. I think we're really lucky that we get this, really.
I don't get a lot of adult conversation, so it's so nice to come to group to have adults that be the same. Does that make sense? Like you can open up and just be you and not have to worry about being a parent 24/7. So it's really lovely. This area definitely needs it. We don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of support. We definitely are one of the most deprived areas. So it's lovely to have these groups be running, because I think a lot of parents sit at home and think, oh, what should I do? And they just don't go out then. So it is lovely to have them running.
If these opportunities weren't here, children wouldn't socialise and parents and grandparents wouldn't have an opportunity to make friends, and they'll go out and they'll do things outside of the group. So that reduces some of that loneliness that can come from being a young parent, a new parent. So these types of group activities they have here at Little Pals is really important for families.
Yeah, parents and staff there at Little Pals in Jaywick. BBC Children in Need is on Friday. If you're doing something special to raise money, do let us know. You can get in touch on social media or by emailing look.east@bbc.co.uk. A great picture story now about a legendary band, a painstaking restoration and an old bus. The double-decker itself dates back to the 1950s, but it found fame in the 1970s when Sir Paul McCartney and his band Wings used it to go on tour. The bus has been on quite a journey since then, but today Lee Milner caught up with it at Thorpe Le Soken in Essex at the workshop where it's been restored.
Yes, this is it. Can you believe just over 50 years ago, Sir Paul McCartney toured across Europe with his band Wings, and now it's here in Clacton in Brad Earl's workshop. Come take a look inside. With me here to tell me more is Brad Earl himself. How on earth did this bus end up in your workshop?
I come into work one morning and the current owner had sent me an email asking me if I'd be interested in restoring his bus.
And you said, yeah?
I said straight away yes. My mum was a huge Paul McCartney fan and couldn't give up the opportunity.
And it's taken you, what, 16 months or so to restore it?
Yeah.
We can see now just some pictures of what it looked like. God, you had a mission.
We did indeed. It was completely rotten from top to bottom. The hardest part was fitting the windows. 70-year-old glass meeting, modern day rubber. The rubber wouldn't give, and it was really hard work.
But this is exactly what it would look like. We've got the bunk beds behind Beanie the cameraman, but this here, what is this?
This is Denny Sizewell's trunk that was on tour in 1972, and he donated it to the cause and put it back with the bus.
Well, shall we have a look upstairs?
Yes, let's do that. Slowly upstairs, when Paul had it, they had blankets, bean bags and mattresses sprawled out over the floor, and the little kids' playpen over there for the kids to play on whilst on tour.
That's amazing. Well, look, it's scrubbed up well. To say where it's been, hasn't it been in Tenerife at some point?
That's right, it was found in Tenerife. A guy brought it back to the UK and the restoration began.
So where is it going to go now then? What's going to happen to it?
Well, under the direction of the current owner, we've made this side fold out into a mobile stage. So hopefully you will see it at a festival. Or
So this bit actually comes down?
Well, this folds down.
Wow!
So
Very
bands
good.
and stuff can play on the top.
Pleased with it?
Very pleased with it. Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much for talking to me today.
No problem.
Who knows where it'll end up next? Perhaps at Glastonbury, perhaps at Sundown Festival. Just keep an eye out for it.
That's cool, isn't it? Looks like they had fun on there. Finally tonight's the last of our Make a Difference Awards ceremonies for the year. Tonight it's Radio Norfolk with a big bash at Carrow Road. The awards are designed to recognise people who have gone above and beyond to make a difference where they live. It might be raising money for charity. It could be helping out in the community. The winners are going to be announced very shortly. Debbie Tubby is there now. Hey, Debbie.
Tom, you know this stadium very well, but we're not talking about football tonight. We're talking about those people that have gone the extra mile. Now, the guests look amazing. You can probably see them behind me. The food has been served and the winners, as you say, will be announced in the next few minutes. Let's have a chat to some of the nominees. Donna, you work for GP Surgery. Apparently they call you Superwoman.
Well, if I'm a superwoman, I must have a superpower, and I believe it's educating and empowering people to make the best health choices possible.
And you do lots of subjects like menopause and sexual health.
Absolutely. So anything that involves hormones is basically my thing. So yeah, that's where I...
Fantastic. Let's go to Toby. You're 12 years old. You ran the marathon. You did raise £1,200 for the NHS. And just tell me how you did that.
So it was just up and down on my driveway, really. It was not a big driveway, but 2,600 times up and down. And yeah, just thankful for all the money I raised.
Oh, fantastic. Well done, Dad. Stephen, you must be very proud.
So proud of him. With the support of his older brother and his mum, they absolutely smashed it. I was so proud of them.
Fantastic. Nadia, now you run a charity that uses acupuncture to help veterans get over post-traumatic stress disorder. Do you think you're going to win tonight?
And civilians. Winning is not the point, really. The point is I love what I do. I do it with every cell of my body. And the reward is the amazing people who I see and who look amazing, and the eternal friendship I have with some of them.
That's fantastic. Darren Edwards, you're a former sergeant. He's helped you a lot. What would you say about him?
The treatment that he's given me is a complete eye-opener, and it's turned my life around.
Well, what was the key? What was the thing that helped you the most?
The first time he saw me, he didn't even ask a question. He just went on the bed. 7 needles later, I was a changed man.
So you hope he wins tonight?
Yes.
OK, let's go to Martha. You're the organiser here. Yeah. How do you choose a winner from all these?
It's been so difficult, but tonight is all about celebrating everyone who does such an amazing job for Norfolk and our community. It's a really spectacular night. So
we're going to have the announcement soon of the winners?
Yes, we will. Yeah, so we're announcing there's 8 categories and 8 winners. But like I say, tonight is a big thank you to everyone who was nominated and who has joined in, OK?
Lovely. I think we're going to have a great night here. They're all going to enjoy it. And if you want to know who the winners are and you're obviously not here, then you can look at the BBC Radio Norfolk Twitter account later in the evening.
OK, Debbie, thanks for that. Debbie Tubby there with a cast of thousands. Alex, you're all by yourself for the weather.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Hello there. So the theme of today's weather, wet and windy, and this was captured beautifully by a weather watcher in Suffolk. So some pretty bleak conditions across the region today, wind gusts of around 35 miles an hour at times. But actually that whole band of rain did clear away, and we saw some brighter skies for some parts of the region, and then some rainbows. So there were many captured by weather watchers from across the region today. Now, the radar shows the track of this rain. It was tied into a weather front accompanied by these blustery southerly winds, and you can see it's pulled out into the North Sea now, and behind it, yes, we've got some clearance, some clear sky out there, but also some sharp showers. So there's still the further risk of showers as we go through the evening and night, and particularly for those southern counties, any of these showers could be heavy, possibly thundery. So yes, there'll be some dry slots in between, so overnight tonight with some clear spells. Our temperatures are going to drop down and there could be some mist and fog patches forming as well. So you can see a spread of predicted overnight temperatures for tonight, anywhere between 4 and 7 Celsius. So still some showers lurking first thing tomorrow morning, and it's tied into low pressure. We've got a couple of weather features here, this trough here and then another weather system pushing in from the southwest later. But for us here in the east, what we're likely to have is a fairly blustery forecast through the day. The possibility of some sharp showers during the morning, particularly for counties like Essex and Suffolk, but also a lot of dry weather to be had as well with some sunny spells. So not feeling too bad out there. Brighter skies expected compared with today, and temperatures just about average or just above for the time of year, 11 or 12 degrees. You can see from those average wind speeds an indication that it is going to be a bit blustery, and the winds are going to pick up later as well, because that another slot of rain and blustery conditions. You can just see behind me here this area of rain expected overnight tomorrow and into Thursday, and there could be some pretty strong wind gusts associated with this rain, some pretty wet weather overnight Wednesday and into Thursday. But with low pressure close by, Thursday looks as though we'll clear much of that rain, and there could be 1 or 2 showers and some fairly cloudy conditions when we wake up on Thursday, but actually that should clear out of the way and we'll see a lot of dry weather for Thursday. Still pretty blustery out there, but the bulk of the day is expected to stay dry without rain pushing through overnight. No warnings for that rain for our part of the country as yet. The warnings are further to the south, but just certainly one to watch because there could be some fairly significant rain overnight. Now our temperatures for Thursday itself, 11 or 12 degrees and some pretty blustery southwesterly winds through the day. Now looking ahead, high pressure starting to build in, so the winds will ease down. So for both Friday and Saturday, at this stage it looks as though we'll see quite a lot of dry weather with some sunshine, but that unsettled weather returning as we progress through the weekend with a further possibility of showers. And in terms of overnight temperatures, well, some chilly nights on the way, particularly Friday night. We could see some mist and fog patches in many places down to freezing.
Thanks, Alex. Don't go anywhere without your brolly. Before we go, a reminder of the top national story. The 2-year-old boy who died after living in a flat which was covered in mould. A coroner ruled that the death of Iwab Ishak was directly connected to the conditions inside the family's home in Rochdale. Their solicitor said the landlord did nothing about it. OK, that's it. I'll be back with the late news at 10:30. See you then. Bye-bye.